Welcome to 100 Yards of Football. And this is our Legends segment, and I'm your host, Bobby Butler. And tonight, I got a special guest with me from the city of Delray Beach. Y'all welcome Mr. Al Wallace to the show. Al, thanks for coming on, man.
I appreciate it. You gave me the call. You know, I had to show up and represent Delray, so I appreciate you having me on the show, man.
Absolutely, man. You know, it's such a blessing to have you on, man. I was thinking the other day how I met you the first time. Years ago, I don't know, about 6-7 years ago, maybe.
Yep.
Me and Buddy Kerr was doing a football camp up in Charlotte. And he told me, he said, look, man, we got this guy who played the Panthers. He's going to come and speak to the kids. I say, awesome, right? And you came, showed up. I shook your hand, and you addressed the kids, and you're doing such a great job. And then you told the kids you were from Delray Beach. And I go like, what? Huh? What? And so when you said that, man, I mean, goosebumps just was everywhere on me, man. And I couldn't wait to talk to you personally. And when I found out who you were and who your mama was, right? We all went to school together in elementary. She's a year ahead of me. And man, it's just awesome, man. It just gave me thrills just to be with you that day at the camp.
I appreciate it. I didn't make the connection either. I knew the name. You're a legend in the city. But, it might be a million Bobby Butlers out there. So I did not.
Exactly. It is a comment.
Opening for the both of us. So, far apart to come and meet there. Right. That was a revelation for both of us.
It was amazing, man. It was amazing. So out of Delray, out of Spanish River High School, right? That's in Boca Raton.
Yep.
You got a scholarship to go to the University of Maryland. And you got a unique story, man. And out of Maryland, you were an undrafted free agent. And you played 10 seasons?
Yes, sir.
10 seasons in the NFL. Hey, man, getting it. He started out with the Jacksonville Jaguars, Philadelphia Eagles, Chicago Bears, the Miami Dolphins, Carolina Panthers, and he ended his career with the Buffalo Bills. Now, I got to ask you something, man. This is amazing. This is amazing. First of all, I want to thank you for being who you are, right? Because when I started looking up things on you, one of the most impressive things I saw is that you're an academic All-ACC out of the University of Maryland.
Yes, sir. Yep.
So that means you took care of business not only on the football field, but in the classroom as well.
Not always. I actually failed out of the University of Maryland my first semester.
Okay.
On my own for the first time, all that freedom. Right. So I didn't know what to do with it. I was redshirted, a little bit disappointed. I was a receiver now at Spanish River High School, and I kind of grew into the body that I have now. I gained about 50 pounds in about 4 months.
Right.
So I just blew it. So I had to do a lot to get reinstated, but I vowed to myself. I know when I came home, my dad said, I don't know where you're going to live. I don't know what you're going to do. This is an opportunity of a lifetime that a lot of us did not, weren't afforded. So you got to figure it out. And I did. And I promised myself, I knew that I was a smart kid. I knew that I was better than that. And I gave it everything I had. So that is actually one of my proudest achievements of being recognized academically.
Well, absolutely. Well, I remember, I had the same issues when I went to Florida State. I was not a good student in high school. I can go to classrooms. I can sit there. I can listen. I can make C's and B's.
Yeah.
Right. And so I was average, but I never gave it any effort. Yeah. And so you go. I went to Florida State, and all of a sudden the pace of college was like that. And back in my days in the 70s, man, I had classes with 500 students in them.
Yeah.
And so the professors are going to come to class. They're going to put that projector up. They're going to put the information out there. You can be talking. They're not going to say, like in high school, Bobby, stop talking, right? They're just going to put that information out there, whether you get it or not.
Yeah.
And it's up to you to get it. And so you have to grow up and be responsible. I had to go to summer school. They didn't make us go to summer school back then, but I had to stay to make sure I was eligible to play in the fall my sophomore year because I had messed up so bad. But then I learned. I learned what to do. I learned how to study, and it all worked out for me, man. So I got to ask you this. I mean, you play for multiple teams in the NFL. When you signed with the Dolphins, What was your mindset? Were you excited? I mean, did you grow up a Dolphin fan as a kid?
I didn't. I grew up, believe it or not, as a Raiders fan.
Oh,
So
wow.
my dad,
Okay.
Andrew, was a Washington Redskins fan, a Washington
Okay.
football team now fan, and '83 Super Bowl. I just wanted to be opposite of my dad. I wanted to be a competition, and then
Right.
I learned about Howie Long and Marcus Allen, and my mind was blown. And it was kind of that bad guy group that I just fell in love with. So I actually grew up an Oakland Raiders fan of all things, but I could appreciate the Dolphins being right there in my backyard.
Right. So many Dolphin fans and back home. And, I didn't like the Dolphins either. And I was a Cowboy fan, believe it or not. Eric Davis, don't throw anything at me. But I grew up loving Roger Staubach because I played quarterback as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, the speed of Bob Hayes as a kid. He was the world's fastest human at the time. And so I grew up a Cowboy fan. So, all right. So you were not really disappointed, that now when you signed with them like March of 2002, but you never played a game with them.
Yeah. So it's a long story. So my career was up and down. Obviously, you have six teams listed there.
Mm-hmm.
At that point in my career, after being with the Eagles and then a stint with the Chicago Bears, I was actually working at Palm Beach Lakes High School as an assistant principal for Nate Collins at the time.
Really?
So I had given up on football. I had broken my ankle, suffered some injuries. It just hadn't been good for me. It was a struggle. So I was working as an assistant principal. I came home and Mr. Collins gave me a job, an opportunity there. And I got a call to participate in OTAs and then be with the Dolphins, which was a dream come true. I could stay at home in Delray and I could just drive down, to Miami and practice with them. And then a week before training camp, I get a call. Good news, bad news. You're going to Charlotte, North Carolina, a place I had never been in my life.
Wow.
Boy, did my life change with that phone call and that opportunity and that 15-hour drive to training camp in Spartanburg, South Carolina. Wow. And I really had my most success up here with the Carolina Panthers.
Absolutely. And it's so amazing. I don't know about you and your entire story. We're going to get into a lot of it. But, it's something about those moments that don't go so well for you, right? And what's birthed out of that? Some of the best things are birthed out of disappointment.
Absolutely.
And so I remember for me, my real moment, Al, was when I was in the 8th grade playing Delray Rock, 130 pounds. And, I was a quarterback. And this year, Vincent Mitchell was the quarterback. And I couldn't find no place to play. So they put me at tight end. Now, I had to be. I don't know of anybody on that team that was smaller than me. And I'm playing tight end behind Bubba Brown. I don't know, do you know Bubba Brown? Brown Funeral Home? You know Bubba Brown.
Yeah, I know the name now.
Yeah. Okay. So he was a tight end. He's a big guy, right? And so I'm playing behind him. I'm not getting any playing time. But Red Odom every night said to me, he said, Bobby, I need you to help out on defense. And really, I'm torn. I don't play defense. Coach, I can't do that. I need to be on offense. Every night, Bobby, we need you to help me. And Al, I wouldn't do it. But it hit me. It hit me one night. I said, you know what? I'm not being a good player. I got to do what my coaches are asking me to do. And so I went and I started practicing on defense. And here's what happened. I learned how to tackle. I always, when I played that year, I played in cleanup duty in the game, but I learned how to tackle. And you think about that. And so out of what was birthed out of that was, hey, look, I went to college to tackle people and was an All-American. I was a first-round pick tackling people, and I played 12 years in the league tackling people.
Yeah.
The things that are birthed out of the so-called disappointments in your life. And so I always say this, man, it's just, we can have our own vision, our own mind, our own thoughts, and our own plan. But we got to give God a little room to do something in our life, man. Yeah. And we'll just go along sometimes. It may not be something we like at the time, may not be pretty. But I promise you, it'll be something good come out of it.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. I mean, it was a tough time. I had a 1-year-old daughter, and
Wow.
I just didn't want to go through the up and down of an NFL career. You talked about being undrafted,
Right.
and that discussion I had mine with Nate Collins, Mr. Collins. He said, I said, man, I'm doing well here. I was content, and he said, man, this job will be here. If you get cut, if you don't make it, you owe yourself this opportunity.
Right.
And that made all the difference in my life, with family support and with the encouraging words from Mr. Collins saying, hey, go live that dream, exhaust every possible opportunity, and we'll see what happens. 2 years later, I was in a Super Bowl. So
wow, that's crazy, right? That's crazy. I tell you what, though, when you're talking about Nate Collins, you're talking about a great man. And, he never coached me, but he was on the staff at Carver High when Carver High came to an end, and he coached on those 2 back-to-back state title teams that they won. And he coached alongside with my best friend's dad, Coach Roger Coffey. And it was just a great time. And then when I played in high school, Coach Collins was coaching at Lake Worth High. And he has some stud stallions up there, man. Yep. He's a great man. And, we'll talk about him in a little bit because he's got a great story, great testimony. But anyway, you played in 96 games, 187 tackles, 23 sacks, 4 interceptions. So you didn't forget how to catch the ball when you flipped on defense, right?
I still had the hands.
had the hands. Well, I'm amazed at your story, man, because, I always wondered, first of all, I always have these basic general questions I ask everybody because they're important to me. And so how old were you when you started playing football?
I was 8 years old. And decided with my mom that I wanted to play for the Delray Rocks. That was a big deal in town. I'm sure we'll get into some of the legends, some of the older guys. And, I was dropped off out there at Miller Park, and the rest is history. A few days later, a week later, you got the pads, you put the helmet on with the DR on the side, and you learned to love the game, the contact, the grind, that heat. Back then, they'd probably go to jail now. They wouldn't give you water.
You can't, right. No water.
But yeah, so I started at 8 years old. I immediately had love for it, the contact, and just the camaraderie with all the guys in the neighborhood. If you were in Delray, you were a boy, you were playing for the Delray Rocks or Delray American Baseball, either or, and most likely both.
Both. That's true. And it's amazing. So I grew up in a time in the late 60s when the Delray Rocks started. Okay. And so it was such a great outlet for us because everybody plays street ball in Delray. Even if you play at the Rocks, you play street ball. And man, they started that program, man, and we started playing, man, and all of a sudden we got a chance to emulate. I got a chance to be just like Anthony Penn in a real organized situation, right? And I would tell everybody that's who I was. I'm Anthony Penn, right? And so he was my hero. So when you started to play, Al, who were the guys who inspired you to play the game? Was it just the city of Delray, what was going on with the Rocks? And did you have any one person that you saw play or do something and you want to be like?
Well, early on, it was the guys that were a little bit older than me, like you're talking about. Anthony Penn is my cousin. He's cousins with my mom, her mom, and his dad are brother and sister. So just the guys that played on the Rocks, and then at Boca High and at Atlantic, those guys, not so much Spanish River because it was really a new program.
Right.
So just watching those guys, and I remember looking through the fence at Atlantic High School on a Friday night and just being blown away by the speed and the talent. And then you start hearing that, and those guys played for the Rocks. Well, I played for the Rocks, so maybe I can eventually grow up and be that type of football player. So for me, that early motivation were just, some of the names around the city, the contact, the sound of the game, smell of Friday night in South Florida. So the band, all those things added up to it just grabbed me. It just latched on, and I knew that was something I wanted to do.
Absolutely. So now when you were in the league, you end up being about 6'5", 275 pounds, right? Yeah. So when you played the Delray Rocks, you were not that big.
No.
Because you had to make weight. Right?
That's right.
And
I
so
spent a lot of time in Coach Red Odom's that white van with that black check on the side out there, and then that press box
yes, sir.
with a trash bag on. Again, all this stuff is probably outlawed now. Chewing on gator gum and trying to lose weight. I was always a long and lanky kid.
Right.
I played running back for the Delray Rocks. I wore number 32, and the guy that I wanted to emulate because of his height and the upright style was Marcus Allen. I told you about the Raiders. So in 1983, I was 9 years old.
Wow.
When I started watching the Raiders, I saw him, and I was long and lanky. I said I can do that. So I wore number 32 and be a running back. And I did that all the way through my junior year, believe it or not, of high school. I was still a running back. I didn't transition to receiver until my senior year.
Yeah, I saw that, man. You rushed over 500 yards as a junior in high school. I was like, this dude was all over the place. And then your senior year, you play outside linebacker and you play wide receiver.
Yeah, I made all county on both sides of the ball. So, the Delray Rocks, the more you can do.
Oh, absolutely.
Held true all through college. The more you can do, man, the more versatile you are, the more opportunities you'll get to play. Wow. So we grew up, I grew up on 14th Avenue, north side, right by Pompey Park. And, man,
right there, man,
contact was part of the game. So you always had the love for the contact. If you didn't, they're going to weed you out of that program pretty quickly because it was different than it is now. I mean, we know more. We understand how brutal the game is. But back then, man, they built you tough. You were tough. You had to be tough for the Delray Rocks.
Well, you had to be. And in Delray, just the elements outside. I mean, how hot it was.
Yeah.
You got to deal with that. And then in the summer, we got to deal with the gnats. We got to deal with all this other stuff going on. I remember when gnats used to first get in my helmet, and I spent the whole day trying to get them out right.
Yeah.
And then after a while, I got just like the dogs and everything. I just go head on. Go in there. I'll flick my ear, do my eye like that, and keep on moving, man. Keep on moving. So now, all right. So you were running back, and you play outside linebacker. So I know you like the physicality of the game because I look at a kid who grew up a skill position player, running back and wide receiver, but you also love contact. So they always put you on the defensive side of the ball. So, but even when you went to Maryland, you were recruited to Maryland to play wide receiver.
Yeah. I got recruited late in the process by the University of Maryland. So as I got recruited by the Florida schools, Bobby Bowden and, Erickson or Jimmy Johnson, I can't remember which one, Howard Snellenberger was at Louisville at the time.
Right.
They saw my dad, 6'4", played a little tight end, and they said, man, you're going to grow. At the time, my senior year in high school, I think I was 6'2", 180.
Okay.
And I preferred wide receiver. I wanted to rock. I wanted the glory of offense. So I said, man, I'm not going to be that big. I'm not going to be as big as my dad. So I thought I was smarter than all the guys who were winning national championships. And Maryland said, hey, man, we're running this new run and shoot offense, 1992. We're going to throw you 80 passes a season. You're going to catch the ball. Bobby, I got up there right away. We started running 40s, and I had some speed.
Right.
We had a guy that ran his 40 last. He was the Maryland state champion, 10-2, 10-3, something like that.
Wow, yeah, he's special.
We ran a 4.27 and a 4.29, and I went to outside linebacker the next day. So he ran me right out of the receiver room.
I love it, man. I love it.
Gonna go. So I got moved to outside linebacker, kept growing. And again, 185 when I arrived in August of 92. When I came home, I think December 15th, I was 245 pounds and 6'5".
Wow.
So I found that weight room. I locked it in, and I got tired of getting pushed around, as a small guy transitioning from receiver now.
Right.
And I enjoyed that process, and I watched my body grow, and I was addicted to it immediately.
Yeah.
Getting in that weight room for me, I still try to get in there and do my thing,
right.
and stay in shape. But I found a love for the process and growing my body and seeing how I can change. my game by doing it in the weight room. So that's how I got to be a defensive end, 207.
Man, that is so cool, man. You know, I wish I could say that, man. I went to college. I weighed 145 pounds as a true freshman. And when I came out 4 years later, I was 155 pounds. And I did everything legal to try to gain weight. But you know, my dad's a little dude. My dad's 5'9". When my dad graduated high school, he was 105 pounds. So, you know, what can I say?
Genetics. It's genetics.
It's genetics, man. It's genetics. I mean, you take what you got, right?
Yeah.
Because I remember, I like to share this story with people because, first of all, what I know to be true about the game of football, you know, as opposed to what I was told as a kid, you got to be big and real strong to play this game. That's not true. We know that's not a true statement, right? You just got to be willing and want to play. And there's a position for every size person in the game.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I remember when I came in, you didn't have receivers hardly. You hardly had any receivers in the league that were 5'8", 5'9", 180, because the slot receiver position hadn't really been developed at that time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you had big guys playing out wide, and you had a tight end. If you had an inside receiver, it was a tight end. He's a second receiver, right? And then the evolution of the Redskins one-back set changed the game.
Yeah,
because they started out, they pounded a big fullback, John Riggins. They had a tight end on the line, tight end off the ball. They called him the H-back. He motioned in and out, bam down on the defensive lineman, make holes for John Riggins. Well, Dan Henning, who was the coordinator of that offense, he got real smart. On third down, he started putting this guy in the game called Ricky Sanders, who was a little slot, 5'9", 180-pound guy.
Yeah.
They're still trying to cover that guy with a linebacker. Now, think about the evolution. Think about the evolution now. So that's how the league was, and they never put another corner in the game at the time. So when Billy White Shoes Johnson came back, the Falcons, he became NFL Comeback Player of the Year because linebackers were covering Billy White Shoes Johnson in the slot. You know that corners can't cover him in the slot. So how you going to get a linebacker cover him in the slot? So then the evolution of the game now, and let me back up just a little bit. My first few years in the league, we only kept 3 cornerbacks on the roster. Think about that.
Hmm.
There was no nickel and dime. There was no nickel and dime. There was no 3-4 wide sets. So you run the ball first down, you run the ball second down, you throw if you have to.
Yeah.
That's an old dinosaur football. Yeah. And then Dan Henning, Redskins, one-back set, and then Mouse Davis and one of my former teammates and coach, June Jones, created the run and shoot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's crazy. I mean, it changes. It goes back and forth. And, you know, when I talk to kids all the time, I get a dad, he's probably not going to make it. He's not big. I'm not big. And the biggest man I played with, it was Steve Smith, all of 5'8", 5'9", 100 pounds. But it's here, right?
It's there, man.
So you're talking about a dog, a fighter.
Oh, he was a dog.
Guy that wasn't going back down from anybody. So it really doesn't matter. It's about the mentality. Genetic being bigger helps at certain positions, but if it's about the want to. And I never played with a guy who wanted to as bad as Steve Smith.
And you know what? I never played against Steve, but when I watched him play, everything you just said.
Yeah.
Everything you just said. Yeah. He was a dog. Ain't no doubt about it.
Yeah, you're going to have to fight him for 60 minutes. He's going to make you earn that paycheck that day. And you have to love that about him. Yeah.
Absolutely. He was that kind of a guy, right? He was that kind of a guy. And so, you know, here's the thing. So I'm just such a believer. I don't know if you had this process. When I was 9 years old, I was watching Gale Sayers play the game. And, man, of course, Gale Sayers was Gale Sayers. And, man, it was so exciting. I said, man, that's what I want to do. And I went and got a piece of paper and I wrote down, I'm a pro ball player, and put it on my dresser in my room. I was 9 years old. Mm-hmm. And I would go out and do everything I could to emulate Gale Sayers at the time, right? And I kept reading that statement. After a while, I didn't need that piece of paper. It was in my heart. And I would tell that to everybody. And I can't tell you how many people laughed at me, right? And I was just sharing the day with someone. I was in Did you go to Spady Elementary?
I did, yeah.
Was it Grace Lycurcus teaching when you were at Spady?
Name doesn't sound familiar.
No, well, anyway, she was my 5th grade teacher, and first day of class, she asked everybody, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? And everything was good. I want to be a lawyer. Oh, that's good. I want to be a doctor. That's good. It was like, I want to be a teacher like you. It was like, oh, that's great. We need more teachers. When it finally got to me, she said, well, Bobby, what are you going to be? I said, I want to play pro football. She said, well, you're going to need a backup plan. The whole class just burst out in laughter. Yeah. Al, I was so mad. Man, look here. I was so mad. And I kept saying to myself, I'm going to show y'all. I'm going to show y'all, right? I'm going to show y'all. And it was just the fire that was in me to play the game.
Yeah.
Right. And I heard some of my teammates, they say some things about me. Of course, I didn't see myself that way, but they saw me in a different light. Right. My attitude, my thought process about everything I did in high school as a player. And so I really believe that. You know, there's a scripture in the Bible that says faith comes by hearing and hearing by the word of God. I always say this, you'll get faith for anything you hear over and over again.
Yeah.
You'll start to believe it. And I try to impart this to kids. If you really want to develop a thought process, because to play the game of football, you're going to have to be mentally tough.
Oh, yeah.
Because in any team sport, things are not going to always go your way.
That's right. You know, it's so funny that you say that and that you mentioned that. You know, we talking about Delray Beach and all the great athletes, the great guys I played with, the talent. I don't know that I was the most talented guy on the Delray Beach. I'm positive I wasn't the most talented guy on my Spanish River High School team. Mm-hmm. And there were probably better DNs at Maryland, if I'm honest with you. The thing that separated me is that I just wasn't going to be denied. I wanted this more than everybody else on that field. And for 10 years, undrafted, the thing that kept me on an NFL roster, even when I was out, even through the injuries, is that I felt like I belonged.
Absolutely.
For 10 years, for 96 games, for all 96 games, I looked at my name above my locker each and every game, and I shed a tear. I mean, a hard cry before I ran out there on that field, because I wasn't supposed to be there from 14th Avenue. You know, my mom and her situation, my family, you know, in the 80s with the streets and drugs and everything else, I wasn't supposed to be there. So it was an easy reminder to see my name, Al Wallace, above an NFL locker with a logo next to it. They was going to get everything I had, good, bad, or ugly. And I didn't have to be the most talented one, but I certainly was going to give you everything I had for 96 games.
Yeah, man, it's that heartfelt desire that's in you, and a passion that's in you. And just like you say, man, there are a lot of great athletes. When I played at Atlantic High School, I played with some guys, man.
Yeah.
Bro, I'm telling you right now, I played with some guys. And I promise you, if someone was in the stands on any given Friday night, I played in high school, and said, out of all those guys, it's going to be one of them. Who is it going to be? I promise you, nobody would have picked me.
No.
Now, they would have said, he's good.
Right.
But, you know, he's too little. He's too nice. You know, because I smile everywhere I go. Everybody take that smile for granted. Yeah. But my teammates know that I wasn't always that nice, right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, but it's that thing behind your chest, your heart, and that fire, that desire that's deep down the inside of you, that's the difference maker. I don't care what nobody say.
Yeah, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. You know, like you, I talk to a lot of people, and they want to know the formula. They want to understand, you know, either for their kids or for themselves, how to make it. I don't know. I can't tell you that. You know, I played with Julius Peppers. I played with some great guys, and I wasn't as talented. I just wanted it. You know what I mean? I felt like I belonged, and I was willing to sacrifice, scratch, claw out a 10-year career, do whatever I could to live out that dream. So it didn't work out. It worked out.
Absolutely. So now, Al, you know, going through all you went through, making it, playing 10 years in the league, you know, just living a dream, right? Because it is a dream.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna tell you this, and you played long enough. You can tell me the same thing. Did it feel like 10 years for you?
it started and it was over.
Just like that, right?
I was 22 years old. The next thing you know, I was 32, and I was putting the Tiger Balm on my knees. Everything was hurting in the morning, and it was a whirlwind. It was a whirlwind, and it felt like it went by. And the thing for me, I'm like, man, did I take it all in? Did I save all this stuff?
Right.
And obviously we were in the game before all the technology where you can record it and it's YouTube and you can go back and look at all that stuff. But yeah, it went by fast. It went by fast. I woke up one day and I was 32 years old and it was year 10, and I was like, those cap numbers start getting up there. Some business decisions are going to be made. Pretty sure.
Well, I tell you, I was really blessed because I love the game so much that in my 9th year, it was my 9th season. The same year we drafted Dion, by the way.
Yeah.
And so it was a fine time to not be able to run as fast as I could the previous year. And I go to camp out, and all of a sudden, I just can't go. It scared the daylights out of me. I'm like, what's wrong? And man, so I had to get a little smarter. And so instead of turning at 3 yards, I had to turn when the receiver got 4 yards from me, right? And I had to be a little smarter. But thank God I ran into a great, a big-time he's an NFL Hall of Famer. I ran into this guy in a nightclub in Atlanta early in my career. And when I met him, man, it was like, are you kidding me, right? And so we're in the club, and he told me, he said, look, he said, Bobby, I'm watching you play, and you can cover, you're good. And so I'm thinking, oh my gosh, you think that of me, right? And he said, yeah. So he asked me, Al, he said, how do you study film? And I stuck my chest out like this. I don't study tape. And I didn't at the time. Man, he took me back in the office and cursed me out like he was my father or my coach, right? And so he said, look, man, you can't play like that. He said, because right now you're playing all your athleticism. He said, that's not going to last you. Mm-mm. And so I took that up. And I started learning how to study tape. And there's no way I could have played 12 years if I had not become a student of the game. And it became so good to me, Al, because see, what I would do, I would find out what they're doing. So I'll look at a receiver, I'll watch the way they stem, right? And I might can't find it that way. I'll watch the way they line. Do they line on the numbers when they're on this hash? Where they line up, how far? I'll go that way. I'll start looking at formations, but I'll find it. I'm going to find it, right? Yeah. And so at the end of my career, man, it was so easy. I didn't really have to run anymore because 90% of the time, I knew what you were going to do when you even came out of the huddle.
It's a big part of the game. Yeah, they always talk about the game being here rather than on the field, because once you get the higher the level, the smaller that talent gap gets, right? So everybody is pretty comparable. Everybody's pretty good. There are going to be some elite guys out there, but the more you understand about the game, for me, hand in the dirt, the more I understand what the other 10 guys behind me are doing down the line, then I can be a better player. And I think that was a lesson I learned early on from some greats. Clyde Simmons, started off.
Man, Philadelphia.
I played with him 2 go-rounds. He was in Jacksonville at the time.
Okay.
And then later on in Chicago, I played with him as well. So being around a veteran who had already been in the NFL 10 years, hey, look, this is what you need to do. Look at that heel. Is the heel on the ground? Is it up? Look at his peppers. Look at his eyes. Where is he going? Look at the formation, down, distance, time. And I was just like, can I digest all of this? But the more that I could consume, the quicker I could react. And the more I could cheat the defense and know where I could find an advantage and still not be out of my responsibility or out the scheme of the defense. So it's big for any young player. It's here. That'll separate you from the other guys. That talent gap is going to shrink as you go up.
It is going to shrink. I mean, every level you go, it shrinks. And the more you know, the better you're gonna be. I mean, it doesn't change anything you do. I mean, if you're working a job, you're trying to make it up the ranks, and the more you know, the more you can do. Study what you can do and perfect it and get better at it. Right? Just get better at it, man. Man, this is crazy, man. We got Al Wallace on the show tonight, ladies and gentlemen. This is powerful. Now, so Al, so let me ask you this question. You know, because I know you spend a lot of times, talking with kids and doing things like that. If you had one thing to say to a kid today, what would you say to him?
Well, believe it or not, I have 5. I have 4 girls and 1 boy. So what I tell them is, I think in today's world, right, everything is instant. Everything is right here. It's consumed so quickly. Mm-hmm. And what I try to do is get them to slow down and learn to enjoy the process, right? Amen. Because the process is going to get you where you go. I think they're trying to get to the finish line. So whether it's my kids in school, on projects, or whether it's in athletics, you see, I got on my baseball jersey. I just left. My 4-year-old boy just started T-ball.
Oh, wow.
So trying to get him to enjoy learning the game and the process of it. So in life, for me, once I figured out the process, and I told you I figured that out when I got to Maryland in the weight room, and how I can manipulate my body, the classroom, how I could study and do well, whether it's on the football field or not. It's about the process. It's about the journey more than it is about that destination. Yes, and I think that's an important lesson that kids, they want to speed through these days. And along the way, you pick up some valuable lessons that you are going to miss because you're so laser focused on that finish line. You miss all those tools along the way that you can feel and put in that toolbox to serve you well in so many different situations. So for me, once I began to enjoy learning and being a sponge, then I can do anything, right?
Absolutely.
So in my career, post-career, no matter what it is, because I enjoy the process of figuring something out, the puzzle, solve the problem, I feel unstoppable. I feel like I can do anything.
That's powerful, man. That's powerful, man. You know, that's a message that every kid needs to hear, because I know when we look back, and when you look back, and when I look back, you're right. It's the journey, and what's amazing about that journey? If you're looking too far down the road, man, you are going to miss out on some great things. And I don't know you can truly develop without the process.
You can't.
You can't truly develop without the process. And I always just believe. I remember. Bump Mitchell was my first coach, right? Delray Rocks. Did he coach you?
He coached me.
All right. Well, you know he wasn't no joke, right?
No, sir.
and so I know that he was in my life to start me out of the blocks, so to speak, right? He was a guy he was my first coach. And here's what I learned from playing with him. I learned that the game wasn't about me.
Yeah.
I was the fastest kid on the team. And I'm telling you, Al, you give me the ball, I'm scoring. I'm just telling you, I'm gone. But I wasn't the only guy. We had myself. We had Van Williams. When he touched it, he gone. We had Bernard Parker. When he touched it, he gone. One of the Parker boys, right? We had Ernest Williams, a.k.a. P. Nanny. P. Nanny touch it, he out. Yeah. So it was 4 of us, man. And I'm thinking, like, I don't care about that, man. Just give me the ball. I can outrun anybody. I'll get that corner. It's a wrap. But he taught me that this is a team sport and that this game is not about me. That was the biggest lesson he taught me, right? And I took that the next step. And then, somebody else took me and taught me this. Red Odom taught me, how to tackle, right? Thank God for Red Odom, Al. Thank God for Red Odom.
Yeah.
Thank God for Red Odom, man, because even though in high school I was a quarterback and I was doing work over there now, I played both ways in high school. So, the old Atlantic tradition, you take your best athlete and he plays both ways. And so I was a safety on defense. I was a quarterback, but I didn't care about the defensive side. I just wanted to throw balls.
Yeah.
I just wanted to throw touchdowns. And we had some players that can catch the ball and do some crazy. I can throw a 5-yard pass to Mo Wesley or Larry Coffey, And 70 yards later, they're put in the end zone, right?
Yeah.
They'll make you look good. Steve Cornelius was another guy I played with, out of Cornelius Tree. Man, it's a bunch of them, right? And so we just had guys like that. Jerome Burgess was another guy I threw a lot of touchdown passes to in high school. So I just love the offensive side of the ball, but thank God for defense. And thank God that Red Odom kept telling me, I need you over here learn how to play the defense. Right?
Yeah. I mean, we can do a whole podcast on how rich Delray is and some of the names. Look, I have a Mount Rushmore in my life of guys who touched me and made a difference, who really pulled me to the side and said, hey, you can be something. You know what I mean? You can be somebody. And it started off with Bump Mitchell really early on in my Rocks career. And then it went to Red Odom when I got a little older. One of the little championship down there with him was his tailback. He coached me, obviously, in football. And then baseball season, he was everything to all of us in Delray.
Yes, sir.
And then as I moved up the ranks and went to Spanish River, Nate Collins was there coaching the offensive line at Spanish River High School. And then the fourth guy, and I played, I think, for the 140 or 150 until I was 15 years old. So I skipped freshman and JV football.
And JV football, right. Exactly.
It was Ben Leonard. He was one of the first,
yes, sir.
The first white man that I had any type of interaction with growing up in Delray.
Right.
And when I tell you that man picked me up, that man fed me. Wow. He just talked so many good things into me and was so proud of me. You talking about tears in his eyes when he realized I made it into the NFL. And he sat out there at Pompey Park, and I would come home to visit. Right. And the pride that man felt, knowing that somebody that he coached and touched and the love that he gave me. So those four men at some point pulled me to the side in all those stages of development and said, hey man, you can be somebody. You can really be something. Now, later in my life, after I married my wife, my father-in-law, this is crazy now, this is gonna blow your mind. My father-in-law went to Maryland State and played with Nate Collins and Bill Caesar.
And Bill Caesar? Oh, wow.
You talk about another mentor. As I became a man and a husband and a father, to be able to sit down with me and teach me certain things. A lot of what I know about those two guys in their football careers came from my father-in-law when I was 40 years old, 40 years down the line.
Wow.
From Delray Beach. Delray Beach, I know Caesar was my roommate.
Oh,
and
wow.
Nate Collins, talk about how smart Mr. Collins. I said, well, know him.
Yeah.
Nate Collins. So it's amazing the men that touch your life. And going back to your last question about kids, young men, get with an older man, get with an older father, get with somebody. We don't talk to each other enough. We don't open up enough. We don't share enough, and we make repeated mistakes. But there's a man out there that's been through it. There's somebody out there that's gone through some of the similar things that could help you along the way, that can guide you. We need to just drop that pride, that bravado, some of the things that get in our way and help us to avoid some bad decisions.
Absolutely, man, because, and that's a big part of it, Al, because, the quickest way to get to any point in life is in a straight line. But most of us, we get off of that straight line. Yeah. But the good thing is, some of us who get off, you may get off, but hopefully you don't go too far. Yeah. And so I know I've gotten off that straight path before, but I never ventured too far. That road was right there to get right back on. Yeah. But I've got some friends and buddies who are great ball players who stepped off that track and ended up way out there and could never find their way back to that road. And it's really a shame and disappointing, not only for them, but for all of us who never got a chance to see, how good they could have been or the success that they could have had in their life. And so it's something to be said for that. We need to find men, talk with grown men who've been there, done that, and use their experience, man. There's something about people don't want to use somebody else's experience. So if I'm telling you something, I've experienced this, don't make this mistake. I'm telling you, keep going this way. If you don't use that, man, you're going to feel sorry one day. It's just not going to benefit you at all. Just not going to benefit you at all. But man, listen, man, you and I can talk all day long, man.
Absolutely, no doubt about it.
I'm so glad I got your number. I got some other things we're going to do in the future,
Okay.
if you're willing. And because, you know, my whole thing is it's good to show our history from Delray, let those who are behind us see us, right? But also to be able to speak into their lives, right? We got to find a way through this and to some other outlets where we can really, you know, just get to speaking to some of these young men's lives and help make a difference in it.
I love it, man. You know, you talk about a couple years when we met up and were there, just talking about Delray and that pride, man, and the Derek Crudups and all the guys, you know, that came before us, Anthony Penn, and
Man.
I mean, it just goes on and on and on, and there's nothing that gives me more joy than representing where I'm from in Delray, because I know the pride of the community.
Amen.
I know the people. I'm so far removed. I live in Charlotte. My wife's from Charlotte. But every time I get an opportunity to go back and try to touch somebody, try to give somebody what I was given,
Right.
Mitchell and Nate Collins and Benny Leonard, all those guys, Red Odom, you want to do that. So, man, I appreciate you so much. I'm checking you out. I just got caught up and watching the episodes, and you're doing a great job. You've been a great man. You are definitely one of the GOATs in Delray, man. I appreciate everything you do.
Well, thank you, Al. Well, listen, guys, that's our show tonight. If you like the video, comment, share it. This is 100 Yards of Football, our legend segment. And tonight we had the great Al Wallace. Al, thank you so much again, man. We love you. We appreciate you, man.